There is no longer peace, a story of a shaken era and a shaken soul. Hello. Today, I would like to explore our lives and society more deeply through a single book with you. Some of you may feel that the words literature or classics evoke a sense of difficulty or formality. However, do not worry. A compelling story holds one of the strongest powers to move people's hearts and help them understand the world. Likewise, Chinua Achebe's There Is No Longer Peace will share with us just such a powerful narrative. Rather than demanding complex academic knowledge, this book presents the universal struggles and conflicts we face as humans in their raw and authentic form, guiding us to ask questions and find our own answers. Although this story is set in Nigeria in the 1950s, a distant part of Africa, the human anguish and societal contradictions depicted within transcend time and deeply resonate with us today. Through realistic issues that our neighbors or friends might encounter, we are prompted to reconsider the complexity of life and the difficulty of making moral choices. 1. Author Chinua Achebe and his literary legacy. To understand There Is No Longer Peace, we must first learn about its author, Chinua Achebe. A Nigerian writer often referred to as the father of modern African literature, Achebe resisted the portrayal of Africa by Western colonizers as primitive and barbaric. He instead re-examined African history and culture through African voices and perspectives. His most famous and foundational work, Things Fall Apart, which serves as a prequel to this book, received global praise for vividly illustrating how colonialism destroyed traditional African societies. This work proudly declared that African societies had their own unique and complex social orders and cultures before Western invasions. The book we are discussing today, There Is No Longer Peace, centers on Obi Okonkwo, the grandson of the main character of Things Fall Apart, Okonkwo. While colonialism directly destroyed traditional society during Okonkwo's time, during Obi's era, it reveals how the legacy of colonialism, conflicts between Western education and traditional culture, as well as personal disintegration amid a society on the verge of independence and plagued by corruption, gradually undermines an individual. Through these two works, Achebe poignantly portrays the painful transition that Africa underwent through the lens of two generations. Beyond merely criticizing colonialism, Achebe fearlessly exposes internal issues within African society, such as corruption and class conflict. He argues that Africans themselves must confront and solve their own problems. His literature became a vital landmark in the journey to rediscover African identity and posed universal questions to readers worldwide. 2. There Is No Longer Peace: The Tragic Downfall of a Young Man. The protagonist, Obi Okonkwo, is a brilliant student who was sent to study in England by his village, considered a symbol of the entire community's hopes. His family and tribe were full of expectations that he would return with Western education, achieving high status and bringing prosperity to their lives. Indeed, he returns home to a prestigious position in the colonial administration, shining as a successful figure. He is young, idealistic, and full of passion to reform Nigeria's corrupt traditions and usher in a new era. However, reality proved to be far different from his ideals. First conflict: the collision of love and tradition. During his time studying in England, Obi falls in love with Clara, a beautiful nurse who sincerely supports and understands him. However, after returning to Nigeria, his family fiercely opposes their marriage. The reason? Because Clara is from the OSU caste. In ancient Igbo society, the OSU were treated similarly to slaves, considered the lowest class, and were forbidden from marrying or interacting with others. Despite having received Western education and viewing such feudal traditions as unreasonable, Obi faces resistance from his family, especially from his mother, who expresses extreme opposition, claiming that if he marries Clara, she and her children would be cursed. Torn between his love and the immense wall of social and family expectations, Obi experiences deep inner turmoil. This situation symbolizes the identity crisis that young intellectuals face between Western values and traditional customs. Second conflict: the collision of ideals and a corrupt reality. Obi aspired to be an honest and upright public servant. However, Nigeria on the brink of independence was riddled with corruption. From minor affairs to major decisions, bribes were considered the norm. Initially, Obi firmly refused to take part in this system. Yet, the challenges of reality proved unexpectedly intense. His shoulders carried enormous economic burdens, including repaying his education loan, supporting his hometown, and funding his family's education and living expenses. Particularly, his mother's illness and the education costs for his siblings pushed him to the edge. The pressure from those around him grew silent but insistent, such as the words, "If everyone else is doing it, why should you pretend to be clean?" The gaze of his supporters also began to change. Eventually, Obi started to compromise. He first accepted small amounts of money, then gradually larger sums, stepping deeper into the quagmire of corruption. His ideals slowly crumbled under the weight of reality. After his relationship with Clara collapsed and his mother passed away, emotionally shattered, Obi was arrested for bribery. The brilliant young man, who had carried the hopes of his entire village, faced a tragic downfall. 3. Implications for us. The modern significance of There Is No Longer Peace. The story of Obi Okonkwo is not merely the tragedy of one individual, it offers deep and relevant insights into our contemporary society and personal lives. 1. The legacy of colonialism and identity crisis. The past still influences the present. This novel shows that the wounds left by colonialism don't end with political independence. Though Obi becomes a modern individual through Western education, he remains an inseparable part of his African community. He constantly struggles between Western rationalism and African tradition, experiencing identity confusion. Today, we often measure progress and development based on Western standards. However, this novel highlights the cultural roots that such views may overlook and the individual confusions they can create. Our society has also faced many conflicts between Western values and our traditional cultural values. Obi's anguish questions who we are in the globalized era and what values we should uphold. 2. Corruption and moral failure. How can individuals resist systems? Obi's downfall cannot be reduced to mere personal ethical failure. He is also a victim of a corrupt system. His gradual compromise illustrates how even those with good intentions can easily collapse under the pressures of systemic corruption and practical difficulties. The thought that if everyone is doing it, is it hypocrisy if I remain clean? Is a trap many fall into when making moral compromises. This novel makes us reflect on how societal structures, such as corruption, erode and destroy personal conscience. How long and strongly can we resist? And when individuals resist unjust systems, how should society support them? 3. Love and social restrictions. Are we truly free? The tragic love story between Obi and Clara stems from Clara's OSU status. However, at its core, it reveals how social prejudice and fixed ideas can destroy personal happiness. Although modern society has reduced overt caste discrimination like OSU, we still face challenges in forming relationships and love due to various prejudices, such as educational background, wealth, region, origin, and even appearance. This novel shows how powerless personal emotions and choices can be before long-standing social customs and family expectations. It challenges us to consider what changes society needs to make for genuine love and free choices to become possible. Can we truly choose the person we love without any social constraints? 4. The conflict between idealism and reality. Can we find hope amidst disappointment? Returning from England with a burning ideal to contribute to his nation's development, Obi is ultimately defeated by a corrupt and inefficient reality. Many young people enter society with beautiful dreams and ambitions. Yet, they often face disappointment when confronted with the high walls of reality. There Is No Longer Peace clearly portrays the gap between aspirations and reality, prompting us to ponder what kind of courage and wisdom we need to maintain our ideals despite the difficulties of life. Rather than giving up on the impossibility of changing society, it reminds us that small actions can accumulate into significant change. 5. Personal responsibility versus social responsibility. Whose fault is it? Can we solely blame Obi's personal weakness for his tragic ending? Or was it the corrupt system around him, his family's excessive expectations, and the scars left by colonialism that led to his downfall? The novel offers no easy answers. Instead, it makes us realize how complex and multifaceted human life is. An individual is never entirely independent from society, and society is constantly shaped by the choices and actions of individuals. This book vividly illustrates the importance of moral decisions by individuals and the urgent need for a supportive social system that enables such choices. 4. The joy of reading and the wisdom of the world. There is no longer peace is certainly not a light story, as it reveals the darker sides of society through the downfall of a young man. But precisely because of this, the book deeply affects us. Through Obi Okonkwo, we see reflections of ourselves and gain a critical perspective to examine the society we live in. Literature is not only about reading for entertainment, it serves as a powerful tool that allows us to indirectly experience lives we have never known and understand the world more broadly and deeply. Although There Is No Longer Peace is a story set in a specific African context, it contains universal truths that all humans can empathize with. While reading this book, we may question ourselves. What values do I prioritize most in my life? What choices will I make in the face of unfairness around me? How will I respond when my dreams and ideals collide with reality? Can I truly hold on to my beliefs in the face of social prejudice and tradition? The very process of seeking answers to these questions is a vital step in building knowledge and cultural sophistication. Since there are no definitive answers, we can think more deeply, empathize with others, and establish our own moral compass. 5. Conclusion. There is no longer peace, yet hope remains. Chinua Achebe's There Is No Longer Peace poignantly shows how an individual is shaken and destroyed by the tumult of a vast society. The ending presented by this book is far from peaceful, leaving readers with much to ponder. Nonetheless, the experience of reading this book can lead us to valuable learning and growth. Through this book, we can empathize with others' suffering, understand the hidden complexities of our complicated world, and examine our own moral compass. This story, while exploring the tragic downfall of a seemingly perfect young man, also makes us recognize the imperfection of our society and the fragility of the human condition. Yet, it also reminds us of our responsibility to continuously strive for a better world, despite these imperfections. Therefore, I strongly recommend you to open this book without hesitating due to its perceived difficulty. There Is No Longer Peace is not merely the tragedy of one individual but a profound literary masterpiece that insightfully explores the universal struggles and conflicts of human society. I hope this story will ruffle even the smallest waves in your life and offer a fresh perspective to understand the world. Amidst this chaotic and complex world, through this book, we may not find immediate peace. However, we can gain the precious experience of acquiring genuine wisdom and insight.